right, welcome everybody to Esports Next Day 2. This is Mark Almanzor from the Esports Trade Association. And just a shout out to Anthros for their amazing chairs, super comfy. Would you agree?
Awesome.
Yes. And joining me with today is a fellow Mark Friedler from Jumpstart Now. Yes, so Mark, tell us, so first of all, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Yes, tell us a little bit more about Jumpstart Now.
So Jumpstart Now is a women and minority-owned marketing agency. I've known the founders for quite a while, and they do a great job on branding, media planning, and strategy. They both have a lot of experience in the games and sports world. One of the founders, Veronica, and I have known each other for probably 20 years, and I help out with my experience from the games world and the media world. I ran a large gaming website back in the day, and so I'm really impressed with what they're doing and helping out with some business development on their behalf.
So you're like one of the original gamers.
Something like that. I started a business way back in the day called GigX, and we did large file downloads for free to play PC games. And then that was a cloud service, but when we started it, to try and explain a cloud service in Web 1.0 was kind of like pulling hair. So I take a lesson from that timing is everything. You can be right about something, but if you're too early and the market doesn't get it, you have to pivot. So we pivoted to what the market understood at the time, which was advertising, and drove an internet advertising-based business for content about video games called Game Daily. And that's what we did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That really resonates with me because in my field of fundraising, when I first introduced the way to connect video games and fundraising, it didn't resonate for folks. They just didn't get it, you know? But years down the line, now we're seeing it become more accepted. And, here at the Esports Trade Association, I can see how that starts to come together. So then my follow-up question would be, with esports specifically, what brings you into that world?
So from Jumpstart Now's perspective, they are pulling together media, branding, and general business common sense to put it all together. So Jumpstart Now is working with the ESTA. They're working with several companies here, and they basically help brands, as you said, understand where the interface is between games and potential targeted customers. Because if you're not authentic in the games business, and you just come in and you're like, we're going to spend a lot of money, gamers are going to see that right away, right? You have to be able to, provide understanding and content and stuff that really makes sense in meeting them where they are. And I think that's what Jumpstart Now is doing a really good job of. So they start with strategy, figuring out what the brands are looking to do, and then they create a plan around that and a go-to-market plan around that.
Yeah, no, I love what you said about authenticity, meeting people where they're at. I think those are such key factors. Building relationships, building trust, right? And that's what business is all about, just building relationships through trust. So I love that approach. Yeah. Now, we spoke earlier off camera. You said you were a recovering game guy. Does that mean you're not playing anything right now, or?
I'm not. I have such a long list of things I like to do, and I just was mountain biking last week in Utah, and I actually have to have some time available for my wife and my kids. That's a prerequisite, and I'm now I made a commitment this year to not suck at golf,
Okay.
which is hard, you know. And I was talking to someone, and I'm like, "Hey, you're a pretty good player, and you've only been playing 3 years. How do you do that?" He goes, "You have to take it as a job. You have to go out and like play." And I live 2 blocks away from a golf course that has a driving range. And I'm like, I really have no excuse. So I'm going to go over there every morning, hit some balls, get out, play a little bit. So there are a couple of tournaments I get invited to every year that I try to avoid. I'm like, you know what? My commitment is that I can go play one of those and not embarrass myself.
I mean, if
So it's a
they,
pretty low bar, but hoping to do it so it actually gets to be fun.
well, I mean, if they invited you, I mean, you might as well, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my target is next July to be respectable on the golf course. Yeah.
Nice. Well, let's check in next year.
When I'm back here, I'll let you know how it's going.
Absolutely.
Terrific.
Now I know you work with Jumpstart now, but you also work with another company.
Yes.
Yes.
So my own company is called GigX, which is what it originally was called 20 some odd years ago, though it's kind of a new focus of the company. And what we are is a IT strategy consulting company.
Okay.
And we help a variety of mid-sized to larger companies look at how to make their business more efficient. So our premise is every company is a technology company. So if you're a retailer, or if you have an oil change business, or if you have a call center and you're interacting with customers, all those businesses are pretty interchangeable, except when they suck, right? And so think about, not to pick on a Dallas company, but think about Southwest Airlines. A few months ago, they had that meltdown over the holidays. What happened was the weather got bad, they started changing schedules, and the software couldn't handle it, and it literally collapsed, stranding hundreds of thousands of people, costing the company millions of dollars. And then guess what? Everyone picked up the phone, started calling Southwest, and their call center couldn't handle the load, number one. Number two, they didn't have smart AI deployed that could allow people to do transactions or solve issues quickly. So there was a huge backup, a really terrible backlash against Southwest, and it cost them hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, what happened? It wasn't like a plane flew into the mountain,
Right.
or there was something wrong with the pilots or something wrong. It was a technology problem that literally brought this great airline to its knees. Another example is there was a big company we're working with, a public company, and we had said to the CTO, hey, you should probably have protection against ransomware so you don't get attacked. We've got the smartest people. We got this. And I said, okay, I agree. You have really great people. However, do your people sleep? Do they go home on the weekend? Do they take vacation? You know, of course they do. And all these attacks tend to roll in at 2 a.m. on Saturday morning when no one's around. And 2 months later, I get a call from the CTO. Holy bleep! They took down everything in Canada, and we lost everything in Canada. I'm like, what happened? Well, we got hit with ransomware. And I'm like, oh, he said, don't tell me you told me so. And I said, well, I did tell you so. And what it would have cost you to protect your entire business, it's like a rounding error. Right. And now you've lost hundreds of thousands of customer records. And unfortunately for this person, it became a resume generating event.
Oh.
So needless to say, he's no longer with the company, but it was 100% avoidable.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things I say to all companies, like, you know what, you may not think you're that important, or you may not think that people care, but if you're a healthcare company or an e-commerce company, your data is very valuable to bad actors out there. So in today's world, you don't just need security, like getting an alert, you need that. It's kind of like, if you have a burglar alarm or a fire alarm at home, or a fire alarm rather, you bought it, at Home Depot and you put them up. Those are great if you're home to hear the alarm. But when you're not home, if it's not connected to the fire station, you come home and you don't have a home. So what's really important isn't the alerts, it's really the mitigation.
Right.
Having a team in place that can go in and fix problems when things go sideways. So that's important.
I love that term, resume generating event. It's unfortunate to happen, of course, but sometimes it's just some people have to learn the hard way. But do you use that as an example when you try to, pitch to another company about why this is needed?
Well, our business is a service business. Myself, having been a 4-time startup founder, and the people on my team, we're all executives who've been there, done that, and we sincerely care about helping companies do the right thing and avoid avoidable mistakes.
Yeah.
So we come in and we say, okay, let's put on our lenses as business owner operators and help you think as, from our experience, and think about things you could do to make your business stronger and less vulnerable to bad things. So we start with that, understand where the business is going, and then make recommendations about how they can strengthen the business with different elements of technology. And then and only then do we bring in the vendors that we think would be the best fit and match them with that company. And then we help them negotiate with that vendor, get the best deal possible. And then when they're up and running, the vendor pays us. So it's almost a free service for our clients. So it's kind of like, hey, if you haven't looked at your stock portfolio in 5 years, you should probably get a checkup. If you haven't been to the doctor in 5 years, you should probably go make sure everything's cool. That's the same thing with technology. The world's changing very quickly. There are a lot of options out there. And it's hard for anyone to be an expert in everything.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert in everything, but I have experts on my team that's like, oh, this is an issue about security, or this is an issue about data center, or this is an issue about cloud. And I bring in the experts to help our clients.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You've provided a ton of, I think, to me at least, really useful advice.
Yes.
But do you have any last words of advice for the folks at home who are looking to scale either their security or their data centers? Because I'm sure there's tons of businesses out there who are tuning in, who are thinking now, how can we prepare for these kind of things?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, in the data center world, there are two big buckets. There's public cloud, like AWS, Google, Microsoft Azure, and there's private cloud. Most companies that start out with like AWS or GCP, which are great places to start, and they get a lot of free credits, which is great. However, as they scale, there may be some workload should be in some places. Others may be better off in a private cloud that's more secure, lower cost. It really all depends. But, we'd welcome a conversation. You can see more about us at our site, which is gigex, gigex.com. And, or you can send me an email. My name is Mark, so MARK @gigex.com. And we can set up a consultation. The other thing too is a lot of companies are really focused on, we need to work with vendor X because we've always worked with vendor X. And I just was at a very interesting cloud event last week where I met 6 companies I wasn't aware of, and I'm in this business. And one of them does disaster recovery. Wow, that's a huge thing. I didn't realize this, but the case study was a company was flooded and they had a data center and they thought they had a disaster recovery plan, but it didn't work.
Right.
So how do you manage disaster recovery? What happened? How do you ensure your data is safe and can be back and brought up and running very quickly? That's an issue. Another issue, how do you save money on buying laptops for everyone? Another thing is what's called desktop as a service. So instead of buying everyone laptops, they can bring their own machines, and now all their applications live in the cloud. It's more secure, it's less expensive. So all these things are not necessarily new, but they're new ways for companies to think about doing things
Right. Yeah.
that could be more efficient, save them time, save them money. And unfortunately, technology departments are always asked to do more, more, and they tend to be, understaffed.
Right.
So that puts a lot of pressure on, technology teams. But I think the big picture is management from the CEO, CFO, CMO, COO have to really think that, hey, our differentiator in whatever our business is more efficient technology. And we have to make sure we're on top of that.
Heard it here, folks. Got to be on top of all of that.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Pleasure. All right.
And thank you to everyone who tuned in. Stay tuned for even more shows today for EsportsNext Day 2. And we'll catch you all later.